Hey guys, welcome back to the video. I just finished watching The Batman for a second time. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys more of my thoughts, some things that I came out of the second viewing with, and just more of my opinions. Before we get into it, if you guys are new in here, make sure to subscribe button, notification on so you don't miss any time of a video or go live. Both wasting more time. Let's get into it. By the way, this video will not be containing any spoilers for The Batman. Later on in the video, I'll be mentioning like 4 different scenes, but they're not integral to the plot or anything like that, just character stuff. But I'll give a warning before then so you can click off the video if you need to. But in general, I do have to say this movie still holds up. I absolutely love it. Now I do want to start off by talking about the pacing really quickly. Now in the first time I watched it, from the second to third act, there was a little bit of a pacing decline in my opinion, but after watching it again, I literally could not get up from my seat. Even though I'd already seen it, I had to go to the bathroom like halfway through the movie, and I was like, okay, I'll go and it slows down. It never slowed down. Everything is so intriguing to me, from the dialogue to the action to just every moment in between. It's just so well done in my opinion, and no superhero movie has really felt like that to me. Maybe The Dark Knight, I think Spider-Man 2 is like that as well, but this movie just really capitalizes on the detective aspect. It feels like after each clue, there's just another thing that pulls you in and another thing that keeps you so engaged. And I don't know, the pacing of this movie is something I've never seen before, and I absolutely love it. And I do want to mention the third act as well. I mentioned this in my spoiler review, so if you haven't checked that out, you can click the link on the screen right now. But I really do love the third act. I love how disconnected yet still connected it feels from the first 2 acts, because the first 2 acts, without going into specificities, it does feel like the first 2 acts do cook up something, and the third act is that baked cake. It's that final thing that you want to see everything coming together, and obviously that means that it's going to have to be a little bit more grand than the first 2 acts. You know, like once you already have that car chase scene and all these other big like action set pieces, you can't go backwards from there. You have to get a little bit bigger, and I think the third act does just that. I think the third act really capitalizes on everything that was shown before in the movie, so that's why I really like it. I could see people having an issue with it, but personally I don't. But now to get to the main thing that I want to talk about in this video, which is the cinematography of the movie. Now, as I watched it for the second time, I didn't have to focus on the story as much. I wasn't really as like focused on that as I much was on the other stuff, like the cinematography, characters and stuff like that. So cinematography wise, it's still absolutely stunning, beautiful. It's mind-blowing. Greg Fraser is a god and he does not miss. But I do have to say, one thing that I did notice about the cinematography after this watch was that there was a lot of locked off shots. Now that basically just means that it's just a completely still shot. Now in my opinion, they utilize that really well in this movie because they use that to focus on people's faces. Now it makes sense that in The Batman, since it's more of a linear story that's slower, more detective style noir, that everything is going to be locked off. Every single dialogue scene is going to feel more impactful and more emotional. But I don't know, it just feels weird that everything else in the movie feels so dynamic, like the environments, Gotham, everything else feels like it's moving at a good pace. But then when you get to dialogue scenes, everything is just locked off. I don't know. I feel like also they're not using like Greg Fraser to his best advantage whenever it comes to dialogue scenes. Everything else, by the way, the movie looks absolutely beautiful in my opinion, but sometimes just in very little circumstances, the dialogue scenes do feel a little bit bland. And again, I hate to use the word bland here because the movie as a whole looks absolutely stunning. It's just little nitpicks. And by the way, none of this is going to detract from my score. My score is basically the same as it was the first time that I watched the movie. But another thing that I really did enjoy after this second watch and got to appreciate more after the second watch is the characters. The first time I watched the movie, I was focused on the story as a whole more, but now that I got to watch the second time, I had to focus on certain characters. In my spoiler and spoiler-free review and my characters ranked video, I talked a lot about Bruce Wayne's importance to this story and how after the second half it feels more like a Bruce Wayne driven story than a Batman driven story, because it obviously becomes more personal for Bruce Wayne. Now without going into specifics, because obviously I don't want to spoil anything, I will say Bruce Wayne's entire motivation after the second half of the movie kind of transforms into Batman's motivation, or it feels more connected. They don't feel like super separated characters like they do in the first half of the movie, which I really do like. Now this isn't me complaining about Bruce Wayne's screen time, because personally I don't mind Bruce Wayne barely being in the movie, because I feel like that's going to be an arc that's going to happen over time throughout this group of movies, because Bruce Wayne is just a recluse. Bruce Wayne barely exists in this Batman universe. It's mostly just Batman. I do want to go into a little bit more specifics about like Bruce's enlightenment basically, and just this Batman arc about who Batman really is in this universe and to Bruce Wayne himself. So here on out, there are going to be slight spoilers for the movie, because I'm going to be talking about 4 separate scenes and each one of the 2 will correlate with each other, talking about an arc from beginning to end, of course. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the train scene that we have basically in the very beginning of the movie, where Batman beats up the white face painted thugs, and then there's one dude there and he's the one that got like robbed by the goons and stuff like that. And whenever Batman beats up the goons, the dude looks up at Batman and says, "Please don't hurt me." And this is just so chilling to me, because it kind of made me understand that, okay, this dude isn't just feared amongst criminals. Even the citizens of Gotham are scared of him. And this is year 2, and he's still like very much a mystery in this entire universe. And so I really like that in the beginning, the guy is really scared of him. And at the end, and again, slight spoilers here, whenever the girl is going up in the helicopter that he just saved, she doesn't want to let go of him. She actually wants him to be there the whole time because she feels safe with him. And we get this super cool locked off shot on the Batman, and Robert Pattinson's ability to just convey emotion as Batman within the cowl is so phenomenal. And you can see there that Batman himself feels like he finally understands what Batman should be. And overlaying that is his voiceover where he says, "Vengeance isn't something that can change my past or the city's past," something along those lines. And I think that's Batman / Bruce Wayne finally understanding that Batman isn't meant to instill fear in everyone. He's supposed to be a symbol of hope for the citizens, but a symbol of fear for the criminals. And then we get the same type of enlightenment when it comes to the line, "I am vengeance," because again, in the train scene, he says, "I am vengeance," and then everyone gets scared and they start fighting him. But at the very end of the movie, or near the end, when Jim Gordon, or after Batman puts the adrenaline in himself and he beats the crap out of that Riddler goon, Jim Gordon goes up to the Riddler goon, takes off his mask and says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am vengeance." And in that moment, we get another phenomenal locked off shot on the Batman's face when he realizes that vengeance isn't something that he needs to be, because vengeance is just instilling fear in everyone. He needs to be a symbol of hope, because if he goes along this path of vengeance forever, then he's not going to be any better than the Riddler or these Riddler goons or any other bad person. This also has to do with the fact that the Riddler is trying to convince the Batman that they're in this together and they're trying to fight corruption in Gotham together, and how that Batman helped the Riddler find the rat and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, I feel like this movie had a lot of like just enlightenment for Bruce Wayne to Batman, and I think that's going to be a really, really big key factor in the Bruce Wayne becoming more into the light and stuff like that within the next few movies. But yeah, guys, that's basically all of my thoughts after my second watch of Batman. Again, just a few nitpicks because I already love this movie so much. Let me know you guys thought of the Batman in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.